Welcome back to the shop and welcome back to the channel. In the last couple of weeks while we've been off camera, we've been working on some of our other shop rigs, which we're gonna show you in the upcoming weeks. But today, as our welcome back video, we're gonna be working on Lunar 1. And what are we gonna be doing? We're gonna be beginning the install of the 4-link. These are gonna mate up to the East Coast Gear Supply axle, and it is going to look insane. Let's get to it. Now, in order to install these lower control arms, I'm gonna need to mount up some brackets. So before we do that, I have to prep the frame, but these big beefy boys here, these are gonna be welded to the frame, and this is what's gonna hold on those lower control arms. So let's get Lunar 1 up in the air, and then mock up these lower arms. So earlier, I cut off some of the brackets. These were the lower control arm brackets that were here before. And these were going to obstruct where the new control arms are gonna be going. So underneath the 4Runner, you can see there's not a whole lot that's gonna get in the way of these control arms. Inside of the frame in here, we are gonna build brackets for the upper control arms that are gonna mount in the center of the axle. Those are gonna mount up right about here. And this possibly could get in the way of the upper control arms. So there are gonna be some things that eventually I'm gonna cut out, but today we're just focusing on the lower control arms, and those are gonna mount outside the frame. In order to figure out where these mount, I need to take some measurements. That means measuring the axle, figuring out exactly how wide the mounting points are gonna be for the lower control arms, and then taking that measurement and figuring out where the lower control arm mounts are gonna mount up to the frame. Now, the lower control arms are about 55 inches in length. However, they are gonna be angled slightly out. So that means that it's gonna be slightly shorter. How much shorter? Well, I'm gonna go into CAD and I'm gonna figure that out. So let's take the measurements and let's get on the computer. Let's measure center on that bushing to center on this bushing. That is gonna be at about 52 inches. 52 inches. Well, that's a whole 3 inches shorter than I thought it was. That's why you measure. Yeah, I'm still getting 52 inches. All right. Cross out 55. We're gonna do 52 and an 8. Okay, where it mounts is gonna be important to know as well. So up here, there we go. So it's 3 inches front and back. Now let's head over to the axle and we'll figure out exactly where that's gonna mount on the axle. That is 17 inches on the dot. Measure both sides. Outside to the hub, 17 inches. So that is 99.5 inches.
99.5 inches.
So that's gonna be 96 inches.
I think there's some math going on here.
Well, in our time off, I've been studying math.
Oh.
And it turns out,
It's useful.
I think so.
Okay.
I think it is.
Yeah.
So we have that figured out. We now know this is 96 inches. Actually, no, that's not right either, because this is gonna be times 2. Now this isn't exactly where I'm gonna mount these. Plus 3 inches would be 6 1/4. I'm doing something wrong.
Math.
I told you I've been studying it. I didn't say I was ready for a test yet. I don't know how I got that number, but that's the number I got. It's 3.25 plus 0.75 plus 3 plus 0.75. That does not sound like 7 inches. So you carry the 1, square root of that, it's 1.5. And then this times that divided by that is 4.5 times x with the imaginary number j, 7 inches. I was right. So the distance between the frame rails. There we go. I'm questioning your mathematic ability. See, when we do that, it comes out to 45.5.
So you get an extra quarter in it?
That's alarming.
I was on the curve here.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's probably about right.
7 inches minus toe length, equals greatness. Let's go. Oh, hey there. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna use CAD for a lot of complex math equations. Now I can do this all in my head, but I figured for you guys, I would display it on a computer so that you get a visual representation.
99.5 inches.
Oh, let me tab out of that. We have 96 inches wide. So for all intents and purposes, this is our axle. So the mount. The mount sits up against the frame flush, but this is an additional dimension that we hadn't calculated. So we need to take our handy dandy little tool here and we need to measure it. It's not a quarter, it is 3/16. So we have 3/16 of an inch that we need to add on to that 1.5 inches. All right, so the control arm is 52 1/4. I've got the line built out. This is the 3/16 plus the 1.5 inch line here. 48.746 inches. Oh man, more math. We have a measurement. So you're gonna try to keep it as straight as possible with this line. So I marked this line with a laser level before I took the axle out. So this is not a super exact way to do this, but this is gonna get us close enough. And we do have adjustments out of our rod ends, so we can kind of adjust from there. We don't wanna do too much adjustment side to side because then we have different length arms, but it should be close enough. Just put our line down. There's our line. So now the center point of that mount needs to line up right here. There's gonna be a bolt that runs through this, all the way through the frame to the other side. So we're gonna drill that and drill this one up here so we have that one. And then it's gonna hold in place, weld this puppy on. Dad, do you think this qualifies as frame damage? That looks like it'll do. Let's see if we can get this guy. The hardware wasn't supplied, so what we're doing here is we're just gonna get this guy on here just for a placeholder while we weld everything up. I don't know if that's on there, Dad.
I don't either.
Give her a spin.
It's Never mind, I got it. I'll get it out of here.
Should we cut a bigger hole?
Let me see. I think it'll do.
You want to hold this on the other side?
There we go. Right now.
Oh. All right.
Use your little finger and stick it in the end of it. Here, let me do that. I'm an expert at that.
You know, if you use your little finger,
yeah,
stick it in the end of it,
just pulled right out. Look at that.
Did leave it a little loose intentionally. It's not that loose. There we go. Okay. I think I already see an issue. That's pretty cool. Well, I see something very obvious. This body mount, that is exactly where my coilover needs to go. I guess that question's answered. That is definitely going away. Yeah, this is gonna be real sweet. All right, let's get this thing pulled off, and I'm gonna prep this side, and I'm gonna get this welded on, and then it will never come off again. And if it does, we have big problems. We're taking 0 chances with these welds. These cannot fail. All right, we're gonna wipe her down with acetone. Make sure we get all the fingerprints and everything off. No oils. And we're gonna drag the welder over. Safety Steve, are you good for this one?
You better measure up. This is my weld. Right?
Well, I don't know if it's gonna look that nice, but should look okay, I think. I'm gonna tack weld it on there. That way I can make sure my measurements are correct before I go ahead and weld it completely. Despite what Safety Steve thinks, he thought we should just weld it on there and leave it. We wanna be a little more careful because he helped out with the math. We all know how his math is.
Dads have feelings too, you know.
Okay, so we didn't end up welding in the other side, and I want to explain why. So early on in my calculations, my math was incorrect. I accidentally read the tape measure upside down, and I didn't catch it until it was essentially too late. But the good news is I had a couple of offsetting measurements that I got incorrect. Filming and measuring things is difficult, and I didn't do what I should have, which was have everything measured out beforehand. I wanted to get everything really authentically, and that ended up kind of biting me in the butt. However, I was able to do some calculations, do them multiple times, and make sure we're still gonna be okay. What's gonna happen is this actually is going to move the axle slightly further back. In case you were wondering, the axle, it's about 69 inches. No, 66 inches. See, on camera, easy to get things wrong. It is 66 inches and I read it upside down as 99. If you're going to do something like this, measure twice and weld once. So I went back and forth on whether or not to include this in the video because yes, we made a mistake and there was honestly most of the video was built off of that mistake. But I did want to share with you guys that mistakes happen and a lot of times they don't work out as smoothly as this worked out for us. We aren't going to end up having to cut and weld that bracket back on. That would have been a nightmare. Fortunately, it worked out. It actually did something that we were thinking we might do, which is move the axle back a little bit. So it actually ends up being a positive outcome thanks to the tools that we have, being able to get into CAD, being able to take accurate measurements and really work out the geometry. We were able to put together a system that's going to perform even better than the system we had put together before. All right guys, if you like the content, please make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, turn notifications on because we have a lot more coming to you. We have Lunar 2 updates, we have a surprise mystery car, as well as I think Steve's doing some cool stuff to Betty. All of that coming in 2023. We'll see you guys next time.